Hey, what's going on team? It's Ricky with TechBud Solutions, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about how I began to make $2,000 a day when it comes down to trading in the stock market. One of the things that I wanted to cover today is that how I got to the point to build the confidence, right, to be able to trade with $100,000. And the second thing that everyone always asks is, how did I even save enough money to trade with $100,000, to even have $100,000? So I'm gonna cover those two topics. So I hope that's something that you guys can look forward to. If you guys have not watched any of my recap videos where it kind of shows the progress of my overall kind of like day in life, feel free to watch this week's episode, which is episode 6 through 10. And you guys can see my overall progress from Monday to Friday and how I made $10,000 profit, right? So for the 5-day period, that's $2,000 a day trading in the stock market. Not only do I cover, when it comes down to trading the stock market, but I also cover the series of different businesses and the day-to-day tasks that I have throughout my entire day. So I hope it's something that you guys can enjoy. So let's get right to it. One of the most common questions that I began to receive after I began to upload the Life of a Trader videos is, how did I even get to a point to have $100,000 to trade with? So as you guys know, as of right now, when it comes down to my overall income, I do well over 7 figures, but that's not just with trading the stock market, that's a series of different businesses that we run. All I'm going to focus on is how I was able to save $100,000 with a normal job, and how I began to build a confidence and experience to trade with $100,000. So this doesn't mean that you have to do anything creative. It just means that there's a lot of discipline, structure, and that consistency factor that you're going to have to implement. So I think a lot of you guys can relate to this. So I worked for a telecommunications store called T-Mobile in California. That's where I was born and raised. So from around 18 to 19 years old, right before I moved to Arizona, which is where I'm at right now, I was working for this telecommunications store, which is commission-based. I've always tried to empower our following, and I've always been a strong believer in a stable income. I was making anywhere from around $45,000 to about $50,000 a year, part-time working for T-Mobile. Let me let you guys know that I was working at one of the highest volume retail stores for T-Mobile, and I was one of the top reps month after month while I worked there, which allowed me to bring in that $45,000 to about $50,000 a year on average from 18 to 19. Now moving to Arizona, from around 20 to 22, when I decided to quit my job at Verizon Wireless, I was making a little bit more money there. For the first couple of months, to qualify for the house that I bought when I was 20, I needed to work full time. So I was making anywhere from around $60,000 to $75,000 a year. I was making really good money from 18 to 22 simply with my stable income. I was a full-time student at the time as well. So this is something realistically that I think that with someone that has strong work ethic, that they can do themselves. I do want you guys to know that from age 18 to 19, I was living at home. I didn't have to pay for my meals. I didn't have to pay for rent. And I know that's not a luxury that everyone has. My mom was that stay-at-home mom, so there's always home cooked meals. So that really allowed me and empowered me to save a lot of my money. That's something that for those that actually know me from a very early age, because of my upbringing, I was someone that was instilled with a very strong work ethic from my dad. And again, just due to all his hard work coming from Mexico to the United States and everything that he's done, seeing how hard he worked for his money, I wanted to make sure that I did the same. So when it came down to 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22, I literally saved all my money. And this really allowed me to build up capital to be able to take advantage of opportunities such as like buying my house. So again, I just didn't want to spend any of my money. So I just tried to find, in a sense, kind of creative ways of how to either break even or just minimize the overall expenses that I would have that the average person has. I was living at the ASU Polytechnic campus for about 5 to 6 months. Once I got pre-qualified and once we closed on my house on December 22nd, 2015, I bought a 3-bedroom house that was a foreclosed home. So there had to be a little bit of remodeling that we had to do. I had 2 friends at the ASU campus. I got those 2 friends to rent out 2 of the rooms that I had at that house. And my mortgage was a little bit under $1,000 and each roommate paid $550. So ultimately I was pretty much living for free and I was living in the master bedroom. So there I took care of my overall living expenses. So now that you guys know how within the past 5 years, from 18 to 22, I was able to save over $100,000. I don't think you guys would really struggle, right, when it comes down to simple math, how within a 5-year period, saving a majority of my money, on average making about $55,000 to about $60,000 a year for that 5-year period, how it would be very difficult to save the $100,000. That's how I think with time, with hard work, and with that consistency factor, how really anybody can do it. Now moving into how did I start making $2,000 trading in the stock market? Now some people think that just because now they have $100,000, like some of you guys might, that now you can start making $2,000 a day. And that's definitely not the case. Throughout that entire process of 18 to 22, even years before I was 18, I was learning the different aspects about trading in the stock market. I became exposed to the stock market when I was 14. There's this article that I read of this individual that was within a nearby city, made over $1 million before the time he graduated high school. I found that to be super interesting, and it really just sparked my interest. I started to Google how to make money off the stock market. Again, one of the first things that popped up were penny stocks. Dabbled with that for a little bit, didn't do very well. But one of the things that I was empowered by at a very early age is I knew you could make money out of every market. So I don't care what anybody says, if it's in crypto, Forex, drop shipping, stocks, in any market, when there's a transaction being made, there is money being made. There's someone that is benefiting from that transaction. And I knew that I just had to find my approach that overall would lead to my success. So I knew that it needed time. And I know this is, I think, one of the biggest factors of why people don't succeed, not just in the stock market, but in these creative markets, because they don't have the time that I did. And what do I mean by that? From 18 to 22, as I was making my money, I didn't need my trading income to supplement my income. I didn't need the stock market to work for me at that time when I first started learning. And I think that's what really differentiates that approach when it comes down to I had a very relaxed approach when I was learning how to day trade because of the stability that I built for myself. I had that stable income that supplemented my overall lifestyle. So I didn't need trading to work out for me. I was doing it because I had a passion for it and I found it very interesting. This allowed me to really focus on what's important, and that's the actual knowledge that I would gain, the series of best practice, and the strategies that I now implement in the stock market that now lead to my success. But the only way that I was able to scale to that point was my approach. And I knew that one day if I did understand how to trade, so when I began to make $50, $100 a day, that as time went on, I wasn't going to just continue to trade with $2 or $5 or $10,000, that as time went on, thinking big picture, 5, 10, 20, 30 years down the road, I could be trading with 100, $500,000, $1 million, or millions of dollars. But the only way that I would ever get to that point, build that confidence and build that experience, is if I don't discourage myself today to then never want to do that again. And what do I mean by that? One of the biggest mistakes, not just in the stock market, that I see people make, for you guys to understand that it is going to take time, that it is going to take hard work. But if you are consistent with it, if you're a problem solver and you're someone that's self-sufficient, that is able to do this by themselves and that has the time to do it, that when it comes down to building a successful dropshipping store, when it comes down to being able to run a successful marketing business, when it comes down to be able to become a successful trader in the stock market, crypto market, Forex market, whatever market is out there, it really comes down to your approach. Every single one of these markets that we talked about, there's a learning curve. And if every single one of these markets was so easy, then everyone would be successful. So right away, you should understand that it's going to take time to learn about these markets. And then once you get to the point where you've learned how this market works, it now comes down to developing your approach. Everyone's wired in different ways, and this is something that we've repeated time after time, that there's not one perfect strategy that will work for the masses. Yes, it is good to have a foundation in which you can build off of, but for you to also understand that it's gonna take problem solving on your side. So you need to be self-sufficient and self-driven to be able to overcome those obstacles, to solve those problems, to then come with a solution. And those solutions then will eventually, as you continue to refine them, practice them, and implement them, will then eventually lead to your success. But the biggest thing is, if you want to be successful in any market, for example, to be able to make, like I did last week, $10,000 in 5 days of trading, or $2,000 a day when it comes down to trading the stock market, the only way that you are able to do that, the only way that I was able to do that, was first on the back end. When it came down to saving money, I knew that I was someone that was empowered by delayed gratification. When I was 18 and 19, I was so focused on just saving my money that it just empowered me because of the future opportunities that I was going to be able to take advantage of. And that's something that not everyone is doing. One of the things that I see a lot within our generation is that instant gratification. As you begin to make more, you automatically begin to spend more, which is, viewed as that income inflation. And I think that's very unfortunate because it really doesn't allow you to scale. 10% a week back then was about $250, but now 10% a week, because of how much it is that I'm trading with, equates to about $10,000 within a 5-day period. Most days I trade for about 2 to 4 hours, and the beautiful thing about that is that the remainder of the day I have to spend and involve myself with my team and the series of different businesses that we are invested in. It simply came down to the simple best practices of learning how to trade in the stock market and taking time to do that. And the second thing was, on the back end, building enough capital and save enough capital with my stable income, which then would supplement my creative investments, which in this aspect would be trading in the stock market. So I kind of just wanted you guys to have a better understanding of how I was able to scale and get to this point of hopefully maybe one day you being able to do the same, to then be able to trade with $100,000, which then led to me being able to make the $2,000 a day. I hope that you guys can take some of the tips that I shared within this video and implement them into your day to day. Again, I understand that not everyone's interested in the stock market, and that's not what this video is about, but I really wanted to talk about how important it is on the back end with those two factors of building up capital and gaining experience, on how when you combine the two and being able to scale that process, how you can really begin to make a lot of money. But again, it does take time, it does take hard work, and it does take that delayed gratification so you can keep that eye on the prize. Ultimately, really do appreciate you guys' time. If you guys want to stay connected, we do have a free Facebook group. It's the largest one out there for those who trade in the stock market. We have over 206,000 members all across the world, and that's going to be that first link in the description. You heard me talk about them within this video. It's the Learn Plan Prof group. It's the only group that I work with on a closer basis. So if you're a complete beginner and want to learn how to trade in the stock market, not only do you get access to the Learn Plan Profit lesson library, but one of the things that we offer that no one else does is that you actually get to watch me trade live every single day. So that's going to be that second link in the description. And if you guys want to get a taste of what it's like to watch me trade live every single day, I made a little bit over $3,000 this Friday, and I want to share that private live stream with you guys. So I'm going to share that live stream with that third link in the description. It's going to be free. Check it out, see if it's something that you see value in. And if it is, again, we do that every single day, Monday through Friday, within the Learn Plan Profit group. And that is absolutely the only group that I work with on a closer basis. Really do appreciate you guys' time. I hope I earned a thumbs up. If you guys have any questions, drop them down in the comments. Like always, guys, continue working hard, continue following your dreams, let your passion be what drives your success. Like always, let's make sure that we end the year on the green now. Take it easy, team.